I'm Jon Cooper. I'm the design director at Studio 369. I've been in the industry for about a little over 15 years. Worked on games like Mortal Kombat, Borderlands, and so yeah, I'm heading up the design for MetalCore.
My name's Jonathan Moses. I am the executive producer at Infinite Games, working on MetalCore. I've been also in the industry for like 25 years. Started out at Activision, working on like all the id stuff, and then did a tour, EA and Atari and Disney, and so like I come from, what we've been calling traditional games for a while, and so being able to work with a seasoned team like Studio 369 on this game is super exciting, and very excited about what we're doing in MetalCore.
Nice, awesome. So speaking of MetalCore, what is MetalCore exactly? If we could get a quick overview from you guys.
Sure. MetalCore is an open world combined arms shooter where you can play as infantry, ride around in a tank, fly a jet, or rule the battlefield in a giant mech. And the game is all about growing your stable of mechs and vehicles and conquering the overworld map with your faction.
That's awesome. So I guess, how did the concept of MetalCore come about? How did you decide that this was the game you guys wanted to make?
Well, there's a pedigree of developers that worked on MechWarrior 2 and other mech games at Studio 369. We're also all really big fans of PlanetSide 2, and so combining those two ideas together, like large scale territory control, open world PvP shooter, but throw mechs in there as well, and it just became a too awesome of a formula not to make.
Nice. Yeah, I'm a firm believer that giant robots make everything better.
That's very true.
100%.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, I got a little hands-on time with MetalCore at PAX West, and one of the things that struck me immediately is just how many different options you have as far as like character classes and things like that are concerned. Like, it really seems like sky's the limit here. It's not just like, oh, here's your engineer, here's your sniper, go have fun. Like, there's a lot of options as far as how you want to approach the game, it seems.
Yeah, we're looking at over 30 infantry classes. I mean, we still have the same broad classes, so engineer, heavy infantry, scouts and snipers, but we want to have a lot of diversity within those ranges, and allow people to sort of pick a class that has maybe a special ability they like a little more. But that being said, players also have the ability to modify their loadouts. So if they want to, change up their play styles a little bit, they'll have that opportunity as well. As well as vehicles, 16 main chassis per class of vehicle: tanks, mechs, and airplanes, with 3 variants per. Gives a lot of options of what you want to play.
Have you guys calculated how many variations you have of all the classes, vehicles, mechs, and all that stuff? Like, have you done that?
Yeah, I mean, with just without modifying loadouts, I mean, I think you're looking at almost 150 vehicles, variations of those vehicles. But if you're including things like changing loadouts, then the sky's the limit at that point.
Nice. So you're really going to have a chance to play your character the way you want to play in this game, then, right?
That's the goal. Is to provide a tactical choice that you can make. Depending on what battles are going on, what your missions are, what you want to do that in that play session. Depending on what mechs you have built, or tanks or airplanes you have built, or are available to you to rent or use, you will have the choices of what you want to bring to the battlefield.
Sweet. What's the process like of developing all that and getting it organized? That's got to be like a pretty detail-oriented task.
Lots of spreadsheets. Lots of spreadsheets, yeah, for sure.
Wait, does it start with the spreadsheets and not the graphics? The graphics weren't the first thing done.
Well, I mean, for design, art has its own mandate. Or for design, our goal is making sure it's fun and making sure we have all that data planned out. So yeah, So from the design side, it's always, you're always starting with the spreadsheets, always starting with the design documents.
Nice. No one really talks about the spreadsheets.
No,
They're so deep. Man. So you're also like the setup itself. There's like 3 warring factions in this game, right?
Yeah, the planet is being fought over by 3 warring factions. They're all refugees from a civil war from Earth that have gone to this planet, and over multiple generations, they figured out they didn't like each other very much, and so decided that only one should rule the planet. So the players play as, like, when they start off playing, they join this as sort of a 4th faction, as mercenaries, sort of cat's paws for these other factions, as they war over the planet. And then as you progress through the game, you get to choose whether or not you want to join a faction or, potentially just be a mercenary for each one of those factions.
So it's not like forced upon you to have to pick a side in the conflict. You can hop around as you see fit. Correct. If you want.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, obviously there's benefits if you want to pick a side. You might get some benefits for picking that side, but the benefit of staying a mercenary is you can go pick whatever side you want, at a given time.
Nice. So how does like stuff play out, like as far as when you hop into a game? You've got the 3 factions. Is it just a 1v1 scenario when it comes to the skirmishes, or is everybody, like all 3 factions, all the mercenaries, everyone's throwing down at once?
Yeah, so the overall play experience is going to be, you're going to jump into the map, you're going to pick a faction to mercenary for, or if you're already assigned to one that you wanted to sign up for, you'll join in for that faction. You then get the opportunity to choose your daily missions, or go find a quest giver to do whatever sounds interesting to you. You could potentially also just team up with your friends and go walk around the open world and try and hunt down any faction people who are just doing their quests for some open world PvP. Well, while this is going on, we also have the opportunity for these open world events, which the PAX demo kind of went over. An example of one of these things is a domination might pop up somewhere on the map and say, hey, Hex, 885 has got a domination match going on, just to let you know. And you can join that. You can go over there and join that match, and all factions can go there. So you could potentially have this crazy melee with everyone who's not doing missions at any given point. I want to join into this domination just to get the best rewards out of that experience. In addition, we want to have faction wars, which are more of like a, maybe weekly or monthly thing that you can join into. It becomes more of an instance battlefield where it's a little bit more controlled player limits, and mechs and units are assigned point values to sort of give a more balanced experience. And the goal of that is to whoever wins that match gets to occupy that territory for the remainder of the faction wars. And then anything that goes on in that hex, the faction that wins it will get a benefit for it. Sort of like boosted XP, better rewards, stuff like that. So, the more hexes you own through faction wars, the more your faction can grow in both experience growth as well as material.
Nice. How large is this open world? Like, is this like a full planet? Like, how big is the area that people are going to be playing in?
Right now, we're looking at around 16 by 16 kilometers. But obviously, that's at some point when we're like, that's way too big. We're going to squeeze it down to 8. But between 8 and 16 square kilometers is kind of what we're looking at.
Nice. Now, let's talk about the giant robots. Because I got when I went hands-on with it, I hopped in a mech, I got on the battlefield, and I just started wrecking stuff left and right. It was great, and it wasn't even like the only mech option I had at the time, but there does seem to be like a little bit of difference between playing like from the first person perspective and then hopping in the mechs, and what's how are you guys balancing that out? Because like the mech definitely felt powerful, but I'm still in battle, I'm still vulnerable and things like that. So how are you kind of balancing the difference between sort of the soldier classes and the mech classes?
So that's that becomes the rub, right? So if you're just a dude running around with a rifle and a mech rolls around, you're going to have a bad day. It's just, there's not a whole lot of balance you can do with it. That being said, if you're with a squad of guys and you have a healer, maybe a heavy and an engineer, and you're just a soldier, maybe you might have grenades. You can, if you play smart, put some hurt on that mech. There's no guarantee your squad's getting out of it totally unscathed, but with enough, firepower, and or strategic running away, you can survive that encounter. And I think that's the way a lot of it we're balancing is the idea that mechs are, they have less, they may cost more to repair, so people might be less willing to put them into harm's way when they know they're going to lose a battle. But things like tanks and infantry and airplanes may be cheaper to repair. And so if you get 5 or 6 tanks out there rolling against, 1 or 2 mechs, those mechs might hesitate and be like, all right, well, we might lose this battle. So, discretion may be the better part of valor. And so the goal is not to see a thing where, mechs just dominate everything all the time. Because like you said, you can, if you're in the right position in the right area, lay down a world of hurt across that battlefield. But like anything else, the goal is to have, layers of support. So if your mech rolls out there, you maybe have you're in a heavy mech, you might have a light mech as a wingman, maybe a couple tanks to back you up, or artillery and jets. So the idea is to layer this combined arm things. This idea of combined arms, where infantry, where they shine though, are going to be in interiors. So you may be able to rule the battlefield, but unless you can take and control points and also loot these buildings for resources, your grasp on those areas is going to be more tenuous. So, we want to have the thing where players want to play in like an APC driver. They can drive your troops to the front. Everyone can get out, take and hold territory, collect all the loot, get back in the APC, and then go return back to safety to bank that loot. So that's kind of how we're looking at things. Like, infantry are going to do what infantry does best, and mechs and tanks and airplanes are going to do what they do best. And everyone should have a place to shine in the game.
It sounds like there's somewhat of a deep meta going on here, and you're really going to have to work with your team in order to succeed. I mean, obviously, but I'm just curious, if you're like a solo player, what kind of tools do you have at your disposal for communicating with your team and being a part of that team? Because that seems like, in a scenario where you've got to get like several tanks into position to fight a mech, like you're going to need to have some way to communicate non-verbally, possibly.
Yeah. We want to use like a ping system. I think that's very important. I think having just like quick commands is another, really interesting thing to do. Like, just having a radial of like, follow me or go here or do that. And then, in-world pings. I think all that combined is a good non-verbal way to coordinate that type of stuff. Beyond that, we want to have obviously, squad support and guild support too. So players have a place to find other players to play with and team up and go do things.
Yeah, I think if I can interject just a little bit, I mean, the other thing to keep in mind is that the core experience is probably more similar to like Destiny than a Call of Duty match, right? I mean, like you've got this open world and you're doing stuff. So as a single player, you've got PvE missions that you're able to do, and you'll just be in an environment, killing things because your mission tells you to, or to defend a spot, and somebody else will be on a similar mission. And so, knowing that you're in the room killing a bunch of guys doesn't require a lot of communication all the time. And so that there'll be just really easy kind of organic ways to cooperate that doesn't require you to be, in close tactical proximity. But then there'll be the, some of the more complicated PvP missions where you have to go capture a point, and then you want to go roll up with a squad and you sort of have a strategy with your guild or something to dominate. But there's a mix of things going on in the world all the time.
Oh, that's awesome. Sure. So does that mean like you could play this game as a solo player and never really have to engage with anyone else in the world necessarily if you didn't want to?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like to what Moses said, like you'll have these missions to go out and do things, and so if you want to just do PvE missions, that is a perfectly valid way to experience the game as well as progress and earn resources and earn blueprints and craft vehicles. And you'll have the opportunity to do all that. And it may be a little bit slower than going into the big high reward matches, but it's still a clear path to enjoying the game world.
Yeah, I mean, just adding again, like that, because of because working as a group is so good. Like as a single player, like you will naturally want to form up with guilds and groups, and a lot of those sort of social systems within the game will develop. So it'll be easy for everybody to jump in and get playing. But I believe that, as with Destiny and other games, like you'll want to kind of form a party that you're going to be able to join up with to get or in World of Warcraft, like you're not going to go do those high level raids all by yourself. Like you're gonna need some tanks and some healers to protect yourself, and that's where the good loot is.
Nice. We've talked about earlier about just how many different factions there are, or not factions, rather units and things like that. What's like the design process been like, making all of those like different infantry units, different vehicles, different mechs?
So a lot of it is, we want to make sure everything has a role, everything has a job to do. And so, and also, having that power scale makes sense. So you have, from light vehicles all the way to super heavies. So everyone has a role, things like, anti-aircraft vehicles versus main battle vehicles versus escorts and patrols and scouts. So you'll have, scouts of various weight classes, escorts of various weight classes, main battle tanks or main battle mechs of each weight class. So as you increase in power and you're either building or purchasing larger and larger mechs or airplanes or tanks, you'll still have these same jobs that you need to do on the battlefield. And same with the infantry. The idea is everyone should have a job. Now, there can be variations in how those jobs are done. You can have an engineer that's focused more upon shield bolstering, so you bolster your allied shields so they're stronger, or engineers more focused on just repairing armor, right? So they're both engineers, they'll both do the engineer job, but each of them have a little twist on how they handle the challenges put in front of
them. One thing that I thought was interesting is you guys are integrating NFTs into your game, and the way I kind of have to describe it is like, if you get an NFT, it's yours and you can kind of do what you want with it, so to speak. But the thing that was really interesting was the concept that you could take an NFT, like if you get a weapon that's an NFT, and you can share that with like another player and let them play a match with one of your NFT weapons. Like where did the decision to include NFTs come about, and then what are some of the like things you're gonna be able to do with those NFTs when you get them, and also what's the process of acquiring them?
Part of the reason why I think we wanted to do this was twofold. One, it's a way for players to actually have ownership over what they have acquired in game, right? It allows them to do, like you said, to do with it what you will. You can sell it, you can give it to someone else. You can, like you said, you can rent it out to someone else as well. So I say, hey, I have this mech. I'm not playing it anymore. I'm not playing the new mech I found or built or whatever. But I don't want to sell it. But my friend's just starting the game off. He doesn't have anything right now. I'll rent it to him. Or my guild is short on scout mechs for our next mission. I'll rent out my scout mech to someone else in our guild. It becomes a way you can support each other in sort of that social network. Also, support your friends and new players coming into the game. It's just a very unique opportunity to be able to do both those things. And I think we mentioned this before. You're never beholden to get a wallet or sign up or do anything like that. If you want to just play the game and never interact with that side of things, the game is designed to take that into mind. So you can just play the game, unlock what you unlock. All those things you have the ability to interact with without having to have a wallet or go through that side of things.
I mean, just to sort of,
yeah.
I was gonna say, to interject, like, so there's all that, like, stuff that sort of comes with NFTs and crypto wallets and like the market and to be clear, like as Saul was saying, like there's no requirement for the player to do any of that. Like if you're just playing the game, all of that will be sort of behind the scenes, natural. You don't have to have a wallet or interact with any of that. But what NFTs allow us to do is, I mean, as a player, it's always been, and even as a game maker, like it's been a frustrating pain point to me. Like I have more money, my son has more time. I would love for him to be able to level up my stuff when in between homework, so that when I come back to play, like that stuff is all like good to go, and there's an incentive there. Like I've got this legendary mech that I built or I bought, and I'm able to have him use it in the afternoons, and he's getting some rewards so that he's able to level up his stuff as well. But he's got access to my sweet legendary mech, and then when I come back, my mech is there warm and waiting for me, and has a bunch of rewards unlocked that I didn't have time to do myself. Or we could pool our resources together as a guild, or I can decide that I've now maxed this out as much as I want, or I've got a garage full of stuff, and we're like, as we said, like playing with friends is more fun. But like not everybody's going to have like the tank that we need and the healer that we need and the jet that we need. But between all of us, like in World of Warcraft or in Destiny or in Call of Duty, you're kind of stuck with your own stuff and having to like work with other people to level up their stuff so that they can play with you. And now you're like, you know what, I've got this stuff, let me give it to you so that you could use it. And then we're able to play better and be more successful together. And we just share the rewards, and all that's kind of natural because of the NFTs.
Yeah. Oh man, it makes me wish I had kids to go and like play my games for me.
You figured me out. My kids are just excuses for farming.
Oh man, well, it's definitely an interesting concept, and I'm very curious to see how it all plans out. Just in general, MetalCore is seeming like a very interesting game. You give me giant robots, I'm pretty happy. In general, I'm just curious. When do you guys plan on launching MetalCore, or like do we have any betas in the future? Anything coming up for folks?
So I'll take that one too. So we've got our open world alpha coming up. So you got to experience the demo at PAX. We've got another demo planned for TwitchCon. Early October, we have our open world alpha coming, where we've got a waiting list start, or soon to have our waiting list started. Actually, I don't think it's live yet. So that people can sign up for that. People who have already participated in our NFT mints they'll have access to our open world alpha as well. But that's going to be going throughout the rest of this year, sort of opening it up to more and more players to participate and give us feedback and to check out the early systems of MetalCore, and then early part of next year it'll be free to play for everybody.
Nice. If folks want to keep up with what you're doing or get a chance to try MetalCore for themselves, what's the best place to follow you guys and check out what you're doing?
Join us on Discord, follow us on Twitter. Those are the best places. We're doing a lot of AMAs on Twitch, and we're doing, but Discord and Twitter is where the hot alpha is always found.
All right, awesome. Well, guys, thank you.
Words right.
Well, fellas, I can't thank you enough for sitting down and talking with us today. I am looking forward to more giant robot action in my future. I'm sure I'll do a little foot soldiering too, but if there's a giant robot there, I'm getting in the cockpit.
Good talking to you again, Blake.
Yeah.